Hi, welcome to this video about using Finale as a teaching tool for music. It's not designed that way, but you can use some workarounds that will help it become fairly effective, particularly for certain specific concepts. It's a very helpful as a teaching tool, you'll see. And the video is going to cram a lot of information in about 15 minutes, so you can rewind or review as needed. Why even use Finale? Here's some concepts, here's some ideas that you can take a look at and consider. How to use it effectively. Three things mainly. The teacher needs to learn what it's capable of and acquire some skills. The student needs to have a little time to learn basic skills that help them in using the program. And you need to use carefully crafted templates which help the student focus on the assignment and not get distracted by or delayed or sabotaged by technical issues. One way to acquire some skills and learn what's possible, which is that first you imitate something, you assimilate knowledge in the process, and then with those skills you innovate and create your own assignments. So that's what we're going to try to do in this video. We are going to learn some setup procedures and some crucial shortcuts to help our skills, and we are going to practice those in the process of imitating this excerpt of music from a lead sheet of Autumn Leaves. Then we're going to make more of that by expanding what we do with this basic musical information. And from all of that, you will see that a number of different assignments could be generated and templates could be generated. First thing is to set up Finale in the Finale menu and click on that, and you go to Preferences and you choose Save and Print. And I recommend choosing autosave every 5 minutes, but you can choose however many you want. Once you do that, you don't really need a backup file. And then you should say Save Preferences when quitting Finale because you don't want to have to keep redoing this. Then you say Apply. Then you move to the next thing, which is Folders, so you can see where your autosave is going, and you can see it will default to a pretty obvious thing. If your computer crashed after you were working for many hours, and you thought you'd been forgetting to press save, you could simply go to this folder and find it, and the most you would have lost would have been 5 minutes of work. There's two ways. One is you could choose a setup wizard. You could say new and then choose setup wizard, and that will sort of format everything for you. Or you can start with a so-called default document. That's what we're going to do today because we're going to be adding a lot of things to it one by one. This will emulate the process that you may go through as you creatively explore options. So you go to the File menu, New, Default Document. Later on you can change this default document to be more like what you want, but this is the Finale version. And let's explore the different views. Right now it opens up in Page View. If you hit Command E, you will see Scroll View. This is very useful for when you're using a long document and you want to be able to scroll left and right. And then there's a third one, which is called Studio View, and that's Command Shift E. And that shows a little mixer type device here that allows you to control. Next, we need to look at the all-important window menu. Window menu is there. All of these things are important. Many of them are self-explanatory. The main ones I want to focus on are that you should choose the main tool palette, which looks like this, and the simple entry palette, which we're going to be using a lot. So the playback controls, which you can click on, and these allow you to control various aspects of the playback. If you click on this triangle, more options are opened up to you. I would recommend that you deselect human playback because it slows down the playback process. You can learn about this by going to the Help Quick Start videos for Finale that covers it quite well. So for now though, I'm not going to say much more about it. In fact, we're going to turn it off because we're going to use another way to play back. I just wanted to mention it. So that's gone. We just need our main tool palette, our simple entry palette, and then we need to know about Score Manager, like shortcut Command K. This is where we add staves, we add instruments, and we manipulate them. We change them to different sounds and so on. So we're going to be doing that a little bit later on. First, we're going to set up our laptop to be used in an ideal way when portability and working in a mobile way is a priority. So assuming that all you have access to is a laptop, you don't have a MIDI keyboard, you don't have anything else, the best way to do note entry is the so-called simple entry. Get to that by simply clicking on any note in the simple entry palette, or by on this little 8th note here. That's the simple entry tool. And whenever you're in a tool in Finale, a related menu will appear right here. Back to the simple entry tool, do the following. Click on the simple entry menu, simple entry options, deselect the first 4. I don't think they're that useful for most musicians or music students. Click on edit keyboard shortcuts, choose laptop shortcut table. It might say default shortcut table, change it to laptop shortcut table, say OK. That's stage 1. Then the second one is optional, but it does help with note entry, is you go to the Apple System Preferences keyboard and make sure that this option is chosen. This will allow Finale to use those keys for shortcuts. One thing is the keyboard shortcut tables, and there's lots of really interesting shortcuts here. So if you want to just take 5 minutes a day or whatever and just explore them, they're related to all the tools. You're going to find some really cool things that will really increase your productivity. For example, on the simple entry tool, you could click on that and you see there's all these shortcuts that will save you time. Okay, next I'm going to demo all of these shortcuts quickly. Shortcuts for zooming in and out, and then there's some customized zooms. I'm going to use 2, so that's Command 2, and the document becomes bigger and easier to see. And the tool you're going to use the most is the selection tool. The selection tool is this arrow, and the shortcut for that is Escape. So if you go out of your way to choose another tool by clicking on it and then hit Escape, and you'll see that it automatically goes there. Note duration with number keys. In the simple entry tool, but you will have a display of a note, and you can enter it by simply hitting return wherever it is. Then while it's still highlighted, you can move it up and down with arrows. If you arrow back over to it so it's highlighted, it's the only thing showing, then it's selected. Arrow up or down to change the pitch. There's a lot of other ways to change pitch too. Then once you're ready to enter another note, you can arrow over and then arrow up and down until you get the pitch you want. Hit return, and so on. And then you change note values with the number keys on your laptop. So the big number keys, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The main ones, the most useful ones are 3 through 7. 3 is a 16th note. So if you now hit a 3, the note will change to a 16th. If you hit a 4, the note will change to an 8th. 5, the note will change to a quarter. 6 will be a half note, and 7 will be a whole note. Now notice while that vertical line is there, nothing has been entered. It's just telling you what the potential note could be. If I wanted to put a series of 16th notes in, I could just hit this one and then hit hit the return key repeatedly, and then say I wanted to put in an 8th note. I just hit number 4, hit that. Then say I decided to go back and get rid of one of the 16th notes, I could arrow back, delete, and then make that 8th note into a dotted 8th note by simply selecting it, making sure it's the only note that's red, and hit the dot to create a dotted note. Then if I wanted to change those pitches and I didn't want to have to go through it and one by one move them around, I can use something called the repitch tool, Once you have that, so if I wanted that to be an F, I could just do that. Maybe this is a D, then maybe that's a C. Cut plus to increase by a half step, and minus to decrease by a half step. So I hit a plus, and that gives me a sharp. And if I arrow back and say I wanted this note to be a D flat, I would select it, and then I would hit minus to create a flat. Intervals with function keys. Okay, say we wanted to do a whole note chord. We could enter a whole note, and then instead of having to laboriously stack up intervals, we can now use our function keys. Those are the keys that are above your number keys, F1, F2, F3, etc. And because of that thing that we did with the keyboard setting under preferences, we can now use the function keys as interval keys. So if I'm building a chord in thirds, all I have to do is hit F3, 3 for thirds, repeatedly, and I get my chord built up in thirds. If I wanted a fourth voicing, I could do all fourths, F4. Of course, if I'm doing an inversion and I want a mixture, I could do a fourth and then a third to create my inverted triad, and so on. So that's the function keys to create intervals. You can also go downward This is an interesting one. Do shift plus the function key interval that you want. So if I wanted to go down a fourth, I'd hold down shift and hit F4. And then if I wanted to have a third below that, I'd hold down shift and hit F3. Next is changing layers. Finale has layers which allow you to operate multiple parts on the same stave. The way you change a layer is by simply going down to the bottom left of your screen, and you will see the layers there, and you can click on this arrow to change it to a different layer. In drum writing later on, we'll use layer 2 as well as layer 1. In 4-part writing, you would often use all 4 layers. Move a note. Once it's selected, you simply use the arrows. Select this note and move it. I can hit the up arrow to move it up and the down arrow to move it down. If I want to move a note an octave very quickly, I can do the following. If I want to move the note once it's selected, I do shift arrow down. That goes down an octave, and shift arrow up. If I want to move through chords to change one particular note, I'm on this note and I want to go up and change one of the other notes, I simply do command arrow and go up, and then if I want to change another one, I command arrow up until I get to the next one I want to change, and then manipulate that. Do command A for all, and that will select the entire chord, and that will allow me to move the whole chord or to apply accidentals to the whole chord and so on. So if I want to tie a note, and once it's selected, I then simply hit the first letter of the word tie, which is T, and that will connect the 2 notes. And if you want to undo it, you hit T again, and it will go away. First of all, we got to get to the selection tool, which the shortcut of which is to hit escape. And now you'll see that we're on the selection tool. I can then highlight a measure or a series of measures and manipulate it in the following way. With the number 6, we'll move everything down by step. The number 7 will move everything up by step. The number 8 will move everything down an octave. And the number 9 will move everything up an octave. These can be very, very useful and increase your productivity. About programming meta tools. Meta tools are simply shortcuts that you build into some of the other tools. For example, this tool, which is called the expression tool, this is where we would add dynamics and various other text to a score. If we are on that tool and we double click, we get all these options, but you see there's all these numbers here, and the numbers are meta tools, so they save you time. For example, Forte has number 4, so rather than me having to go into that window, I can simply hold down 4 and click, and I will get that meta tool there. It saves you a lot of time. You can also change them, so if you decide that you want 4 to be something else, you can, I don't know, mute or something. I can simply do shift 4 while I'm in that window, and you'll see that now the 4 has appeared there. And so now when I hit 4, I will bring that forward. So you can actually program them and customize them to your purpose. Okay, now we're going to learn by copying a lead sheet, and then we're going to manipulate that lead sheet to make it into a teaching tool. We're going to use this little excerpt of Autumn Leaves, which is right here. And here we go. First thing we're going to do is set up the sounds. It's important when using this as a teaching tool to try to learn how to make things sound as good as possible and help the students do that as well. So we're going to the document, which again is just a default document from Finale at this point. This can all be pre-configured once you learn how to do it. We need to go to the so-called score manager, and the shortcut for that is Command K. You need to kind of make yourself use shortcuts if you want to learn them. Here we see a window, and we see that we have just one staff, and there's something called the Smart Music Soft Synth is providing the sound, and it's grand piano sound. Well, better sounds are available via the Garriton sounds that come with Finale, and so here's the way to set it up. Go to MIDI audio, and instead of playing through MIDI, play through audio units. Then it looks like everything works smoothly, but if you ever did need to double check or troubleshoot, you would go down to audio units, banks and effects, and you should have an ARIA player here. This is the player for the Garriton sound. It will say Steinway piano or whatever the sound is. Now if you want to change the sound, you click over on this thing, and you have this incredible multitude of options. Okay, so that's setting up your sounds in Score Manager.